Did you know that over 284 million people around the world suffer from an anxiety disorder? And that's just the people who are disclosing. But what if I told you that anxiety isn't just emotional? It's your brain trying to predict danger and it's getting it wrong. Welcome back to the podcast family. In our last episode, we explored how stress can be managed and even soothed through sound and frequency. And I wanted to keep with that theme because anxiety, so many people suffer from it. And today we're just going to zoom in on it, not just how it feels, but why it happens from a neuroscience perspective and personal experience. And at the heart of it, a brain function called prediction error. Let's decode it together and stick with me because I'm going to give you some tips on how you can recognize and rewire prediction errors to help manage anxiety better. Here's the challenge so many of us face. We feel anxious even when there's nothing objectively threatening happening at all. There's no reason we should be feeling anxious. Are you familiar with that feeling? I know I am. And nothing, I mean absolutely nothing that you can detect at the conscious level is happening. So you could be sitting at your desk, scrolling through emails, and just bam, all of a sudden your chest is feeling tight, your heart starts racing, a flood of what if thoughts come at you out of nowhere. Why? This is the paradox of anxiety. Your environment's safe, but your internal world is on high alert. And that's because the brain doesn't just react to the present, it constantly predicts the future. This is so important and often lost in the world of anxiety. You need to know this, you need to understand it, especially if you suffer from anxiety, because when something doesn't match what your brain expects, it can misfire. And in some people, that misfire turns into full blown anxiety. This is a real thing, prediction error, and it causes so much suffering for people. So, this error happens, as I told you, when there's a mismatch between what your brain expects to happen and what's actually happening. It's a key mechanism in how we learn and adapt. So, let me give you an example of how this is working in your everyday life. So, you reach for a hot cup of coffee and you expect it to be warm, but it's ice cold. Your brain will flag that as a prediction error to help you recalibrate. No danger here, just a surprise. But in an anxious brain, that recalibration doesn't stop at mild surprise. The brain is going to interpret this uncertainty or minor deviation as a potential threat. So, the main players in where anxiety begins in the brain is your amygdala. That's your emotional alarm center. It activates when it thinks there's a threat. Your prefrontal cortex, that's where all the decisions happen. It tries to assess if the threat is real. Your insular cortex, that's going to monitor, it monitors your internal signals like your heart rate, gut tension, etc. And then there's your anterior cingulate cortex, or your ACC. It handles this error detection and conflict. So when your brain perceives prediction error, say a text that didn't get a reply, it may activate the amygdala, sending the signal, something's wrong, prepare to panic. And here's the real kicker. The brain doesn't need actual danger to trigger this. It only needs uncertainty. That means anxiety isn't you being irrational. It's your brain doing its job, but doing it too much, too often, and with the wrong data. And here's another big insight for you. Anxiety is a signal, not a fact. It's your brain's misinterpretation of signals. So you're going to get increased heart rate, a strange look from someone, right? Um, or a deviation from your routine, and that's going to create the anxiety spiral. It's like having a smoke detector that goes off every time you make toast. So you end up fearing fire when all you've got is breakfast. I used to know someone who would panic every time her phone buzzed binged, played music, or whatever. Not because of any trauma, but because her brain had wired itself to expect bad news when it heard that. That's prediction error in action. This harmless event interpreted as a threat because it broke an unconscious pattern. And once she understood that her brain was making predictions and that she could update those predictions, her anxiety started to lose power. So let's unpack how you can recognize and rewire prediction errors to help you manage anxiety. The first thing you can do is name the prediction. So ask yourself, what did I expect to happen just now? And you'll often find that your anxiety is coming from something unexpected, not something dangerous. So here's an example. You have an expectation. My partner will text back right away. Reality, they didn't. Prediction error, something must be wrong. New thought you can insert, maybe they're just busy. Okay. Second thing, ground in sensory reality. Your brain is reacting to a story. Counteract that by anchoring to your senses. What do you see? What do you feel? And what do you hear? This is going to activate the prefrontal cortex, which is then going to help you regulate the amygdala's alarm. Remember, that's that whole emotional alarm system, and you'll be able to regulate it better. The third thing, reframe uncertainty. The anxious brain hates ambiguity. It doesn't like it. Try replacing what if something bad happens with what else might be true. So your anxious brain that hates uncertainty is going to now look at it, opens it up. It opens up the brain to prediction flexibility. Okay. It's going to reduce the emotional charge of the error that's happening. That's what's going to happen when you reframe that uncertainty. You can update the mental model. This is the fourth thing. So each time you survive a false alarm, log it mentally or in a journal. This is going to help the brain learn that not every unexpected moment is an actual threat. Literally rewiring your prediction circuits over time. The fifth thing you can do, and this involves neuroplasticity and your anxiety. So your brain is always updating itself. That means that anxiety is not a life sentence. It's just a loop. Okay. So for those of you that think I have anxiety, I'm going to have it for the rest of my life. This is great news, right? It's not a life sentence. It's just a loop. And that loop can be changed through tools like mindfulness, CBT, for example, exposure therapy, and yes, even frequency-based sound healing. You're teaching the brain to expect safety again. So there are things that you can do. And so anxiety then isn't a weakness. It's your brain trying to keep you safe based on incomplete information, which is a prediction error. And when you understand that, you can step outside of the fear and start retraining your brain then with compassion and clarity. And let's keep this conversation going. What was your last anxiety prediction error? Now that you have this information, what was the last anxiety prediction error you can think of? And did your brain sound the alarm too soon? Give me some feedback. I read every single one of your comments and feedback. And if you want to keep exploring this theme, check out my episode on mindfulness techniques to help you regulate your nervous system and quiet the noise. And I'll link that in the show notes. You just need to know you're not broken. This is not a lifetime thing you have to deal with. You're just processing more data than you need to know. And your brain is using the prediction error. And now you've got the tools to be able to reframe it. Until next time, take care of your mind, body, and soul.